Lieutenant Commander Jack Hudson looked out the viewport of the USS Nightingale as it approached the space station orbiting Jupiter. After 15 years in the Special Forces, he thought he had seen everything. He was wrong. Today, humanity would meet aliens for the first time. "Nervous?" asked Olivia Reeves as she joined him at the viewport. Her dark hair was pulled back in a tight bun, and her blue diplomatic corps uniform was perfectly pressed. Jack shrugged. "I've been shot at in 7 different countries. First contact should be a walk in the park. These aren't humans, Jack. The Zyraxians reached out to us, but we know almost nothing about them." The space station grew larger as they approached. It was a neutral meeting ground, built jointly by human engineers and Zyraxian workers over the past 6 months after first radio contact. Captain Laura Bryce's voice came over the intercom. "All diplomatic personnel report to the shuttle bay. First contact team prepare for departure." Jack checked his sidearm out of habit, then remembered the strict orders. No visible weapons. This was supposed to be peaceful. He left the gun in his quarters and headed to the shuttle bay. The shuttle was small and packed with 12 people. Jack sat next to Olivia, who was reviewing her notes on the translation software. "You really think that program will work?" Jack asked. "It should. We've been exchanging language data with them for months. Basic communication shouldn't be a problem." The shuttle docked with a gentle bump. Jack was the third person through the airlock, scanning for threats out of habit. The reception area was large and brightly lit, and there they were, the Zyraxians. They stood about 7 feet tall with slender bodies. Their skin seemed to shift colors like oil on water, currently showing patterns of blue and green. They had 4 arms and faces that reminded Jack of praying mantises, with large compound eyes and small moving parts around what must be mouths. One Zyraxian stepped forward. Its skin shifted to a deep purple with gold patterns. "Welcome, humans of Earth. I am High Commander Vextar of the Zyraxian Collective. We are pleased to meet our cosmic neighbors at last." The translation came through clearly on their earpieces. Captain Bryce stepped forward. "High Commander Vextar, I am Captain Laura Bryce of the United Earth Forces. We bring greetings from all people of Earth." The formal introductions continued for nearly an hour. Jack observed everything, noting the ways the aliens moved, how they positioned themselves, the changing colors of their skin. 6 armed Zyraxians stood at the edges of the room, guards just like him. Later, during the formal dinner, Jack sat beside Olivia. The food was Earth-sourced for humans, and whatever the Zyraxians ate was unrecognizable. "They seem friendly enough," Jack said quietly. Olivia nodded, but her expression was tight. "Maybe. But they ask very specific questions, all about our military, capacity, defense systems, population centers." Jack had noticed the same thing. "Could be normal caution." "Maybe. But why invite us to their section of the station before the formal tour tomorrow? Seems eager." After dinner, Vextar approached them. "Lieutenant Commander Hudson, your combat record is impressive. Perhaps you would like to see our training facilities." Jack was surprised. "You've researched me?" "We have studied all of you," Vextar said. "Your species has a fascinating history of warfare, so primitive, yet so effective." Something in the way he said it made Jack uneasy. The Zyraxian training room was filled with equipment Jack didn't recognize. 2 Zyraxian officers were talking in a corner, not realizing Jack and Olivia were close enough to hear through their translation devices. "The preparation phase is complete. Neutralization protocols can begin at your command," one said. "Good. The humans suspect nothing. Their orbital defenses will fall within minutes," the other replied. Jack froze. He caught Olivia's eye and saw she had heard too. They needed to warn Earth now. As they tried to leave casually, Vextar appeared in the doorway. "Is something wrong, Lieutenant Commander?" "Not at all," Jack said smoothly. "Just tired from the journey. We should return to our quarters." "I insist you stay," Vextar said. His skin turned deep red. "We have much more to show you." Jack's combat instincts took over. He grabbed Olivia's arm and pulled her behind a piece of equipment as the Zyraxian guards drew weapons. Run! He shouted. They sprinted down the corridor. As energy blasts hit the walls around them, they made it to a communication room. Jack barricaded the door while Olivia tried to send a warning to Earth. No signal. They're jamming us, she said. An explosion rocked the station. Through the viewport, they saw Xeraxian ships appearing from behind Jupiter, hundreds of them. And in the distance, flashes of light near Earth. The attack had already begun. We need to get back to the Nightingale, Jack said. They found 3 more humans hiding in a storage room. Engineer Alan Garcia, Dr. Samantha Wells, and Lieutenant Eric Stone. The captain and the others are dead, Eric told them. The Xeraxians shot them when the attack began. Another explosion shook the station. The shuttle bay, Jack decided. We might be able to take a shuttle back to the ship. They moved through the station using maintenance tunnels. Jack had memorized the layout before arrival, an old habit that was now saving their lives. They reached the shuttle bay to find their own shuttle destroyed, but a smaller Xeraxian transport was intact. Can anyone fly that? Jack asked. Alan stepped forward. I can try. The controls might be similar to our own. As they ran for the alien shuttle, Xeraxian guards entered the bay. Jack grabbed a fallen alien weapon and fired, providing cover as the others boarded. Through the viewport, they watched in horror as the USS Nightingale exploded, hit by Xeraxian weapons fire. Alan managed to start the shuttle and launch from the station. As they flew toward the outer solar system, they watched Xeraxian warships heading toward Earth by the hundreds. They planned this all along, Olivia said, her voice shaking. The peace talks were just to get close to us. Jack stared at the distant Earth, now surrounded by alien ships. Earth's major defenses are already down. They hit us exactly where we were weakest. What do we do now? Dr. Wells asked. Jack looked at the small group. 5 survivors against an alien invasion force. We find a place to hide, gather more survivors if we can, and then we fight back, he said. They may have better technology, but we humans are good at one thing: survival. They know all about our weapons and tactics, Eric pointed out. Then, we'll have to come up with new ones, Jack said. They might know our technology, but they don't understand humans, not really. As the stolen shuttle raced through space, Jack made a silent promise. This wasn't over. The Xeraxians thought they had won with their surprise attack, but they didn't understand what humans were capable of when pushed into a corner, and they definitely weren't ready for what Jack and the survivors would do next. 3 months had passed since the Xeraxian attack. Jack Hudson looked out from the mountain hideout at what used to be Denver in the distance. Now the city glowed with strange purple lights from Xeraxian buildings. Any movement? Alan Garcia asked, joining him at the lookout point. Same as yesterday. Patrols every 30 minutes, Jack said, lowering his binoculars. They're still looking for us. The small team had managed to crash land their stolen shuttle in the Rocky Mountains before the Xeraxians could track them. For weeks they had hidden, slowly gathering supplies and information. Their base was a former mining facility, dug deep into the mountain. It wasn't much, but it kept them hidden. Jack headed back inside. In the main room, Dr. Samantha Wells was studying something on a makeshift screen. I think I found something, she said when she saw Jack. Look at this footage we got from the patrol we recorded yesterday. Jack watched the video of a Xeraxian patrol walking through a forest. Something odd happened when they passed through patches of shadow. They slow down, Jack noted, and they keep looking around like they're confused. Exactly, said Dr. Wells. I've been studying their physiology from our recordings. I think they see light differently than we do. Certain shadows might be nearly invisible to them. Lieutenant Eric Stone leaned forward. So we could hide in plain sight? Maybe, Dr. Wells said. And there's more. Listen to this. She played an audio recording, the sound of a stream babbling over rocks, wind in trees, and birds singing. This is when the patrol stopped for almost 5 minutes, she explained. They seemed confused, almost disoriented. Multiple natural sounds at once, Olivia Reeves said, joining the conversation. Their hearing might be very sensitive but bad at filtering. For the first time in months, Jack felt a spark of hope. So they have weaknesses. We just need to figure out how to use them. A radio on the table crackled to life. Base, this is Lookout. We have movement on the North Road. Not Xeraxian. Repeat, not Xeraxian. Looks like humans. Jack grabbed his rifle. Eric, with me. Rest of you, security positions. Outside. Jack and Eric moved quickly through the trees. They stayed low, using the forest for cover until they reached a ridge overlooking the road. A group of about 15 people was moving carefully along the old highway. They looked tired and dirty. At the front was a woman with short brown hair carrying a hunting rifle. Behind her were men, women, and even a few children. Survivors or trap? Eric whispered. Jack studied them through binoculars. They look real enough. Let's find out. They moved down the slope, staying hidden until they were about 50 yards from the group. That's far enough, Jack called out, his rifle raised. Who are you? The woman at the front stopped and raised her hands slowly. My name is Kelly Daniels. We're from Boston, or what's left of it. Boston? That's over 2,000 miles from here. We've been moving for months, staying ahead of the patrols, Kelly said. Are you military? What's left of it? Jack echoed her words. How did you find this place? We didn't, Kelly said. We were following him. She pointed to a man at the back of the group. He stepped forward, and Jack recognized the uniform of a Navy SEAL, though it was torn and dirty. Captain Paul Winters, the man said. Second SEAL Team. I've been gathering survivors and looking for any military personnel still operating. How? Do I know you're not working for them? Jack asked. Paul pulled out a metal tag from his pocket and tossed it to Jack. It was a genuine military ID chip. Been following Xeraxian communication channels, Paul said. Heard chatter about a stolen alien shuttle that crashed in these mountains. Thought it might be friendly. Jack nodded slowly. You better come with us, but we'll check everyone first. Back at the base, after thorough searches and questions, Jack became convinced the newcomers were genuine. Kelly Daniels had been a middle school science teacher before the invasion. Now she was a resistance leader. We've been watching them, Kelly explained as they sat around a table in the base, taking notes on their patrol patterns, their behavior. She unfolded a paper map covered in markings. The aliens have trouble in dense forests, heavy rain, and areas with lots of echoes. They also seem to hate certain smells, though we haven't figured out which ones yet. That matches what Dr. Wells discovered, Jack said. They see and hear differently than we do, Captain Winters added. They're strongest in open areas with good visibility and quiet surroundings. That's why they took the cities first and built those towers. Communication hubs, Alan said. They're constantly talking to each other. When we jammed their signals during our escape, they seemed confused. Olivia, who had been listening quietly, spoke up. They're a hive mind or something. Close to it, they need constant contact. So we use that against them, Jack said. For the first time, they began to form a real plan. Dr. Wells would continue studying Xeraxian biology. Alan would work on devices to disrupt their communications. Olivia would try to decode more of their language. That night, Jack couldn't sleep. He walked outside to find Kelly sitting at the lookout point. You should get some rest, he said, sitting beside her. Can't. Every time I close my eyes, I see them taking Boston. She stared at the distant city lights. How do we fight something so advanced? Not with better weapons, Jack said. We need to be smarter. We need to be what they don't expect. Which is ghosts, Jack said. If they can't see us well in shadows, can't hear us in certain conditions, we become invisible. We hit them where they're blind, then disappear. Kelly was quiet for a moment. In Boston, we noticed something. They never found the people who hid in the subway tunnels. We thought it was just luck. Or maybe they couldn't detect them underground. Jack realized. Limited visibility, lots of echoes, unusual smells. The next morning, Jack called everyone together. We're done hiding, he told the group. It's time to fight back. He outlined his plan. They would start small, using what they knew about Xeraxian weaknesses. Their first target would be a small outpost that Alan had spotted about 10 miles away. They think they know humans, Jack said. They studied our wars, our weapons. But they don't understand how we think, how we adapt. They've never fought an enemy they can't see. As the group prepared weapons and supplies, Jack looked at the diverse team they had assembled. Soldiers, a teacher, an engineer, a scientist, and ordinary people willing to fight. The Xeraxians think they've won, he told them. But the real war is just beginning, and they have no idea what's coming. Jack watched from the hillside as the small Xeraxian outpost glowed in the night. 6 aliens moved around the structure, their skin shifting between blue and green colors. "Everyone ready?" he whispered into his radio. "Team 1 in position," came Paul's voice. "Team 2 ready?" Kelly confirmed. Jack turned to Dr. Wells beside him. "You sure this will work?" She handed him what looked like a dark poncho made from strange material. "It absorbs light in their visual range. To them you'll be a walking shadow." Jack put it on, feeling the lightweight material settle over his shoulders. Then he applied the paste Dr. Wells had made to his face and hands, a mixture that she claimed would hide his heat signature. "And the sound?" he asked. Alan held up small devices. "These will create background noise that should confuse their hearing, like static for their ears." Jack nodded and took a deep breath. "Let's move. Remember, this is just a test. If anything goes wrong, retreat immediately." The team of 6 moved down the slope toward the outpost. Jack, Paul, and Eric wore the special ponchos. Kelly, Alan, and Olivia would stay back as support. When they were 50 yards from the perimeter, Jack activated his sound device. A soft, white noise began to emit from it, barely audible to human ears. "Now we see if we're invisible," Jack whispered. They moved forward slowly. A Xeraxian guard walked directly toward them, its head turning from side to side. Jack froze, certain they would be spotted. The alien walked past less than 10 feet away. It never turned its head toward them. Jack could hardly believe it. The camouflage was working. They continued toward the main building. At the entrance, Paul placed one of Alan's devices, a signal jammer. Inside, they moved carefully through the dim corridors. The outpost was smaller than expected, with only a few. Showing in the central chamber, they found what looked like a communication station. Screens showed maps of the area and strange symbols Jack couldn't read. "Olivia," Jack whispered into his radio. "We found their comm center. Can you make anything of these symbols if I send pictures?" "Send them," she replied. Jack took several photos with a small camera. As he was finishing, a door opened and 2 Xeraxians entered. Jack and the others pressed against the wall, completely still. The aliens moved to the console, their forearms working quickly over the controls. They seemed agitated, skin flashing yellow and red. "Something's wrong," Eric whispered, barely audible. "They know something's not right." Jack pointed to the door. They needed to leave now. As they crept toward the exit, one of the Xeraxians suddenly turned and looked directly at where they were standing. It made a high-pitched sound and reached for a weapon. Jack reacted instantly, firing his stun gun. The alien dropped. The second one turned, but Paul had already fired, taking it down too. "Move," Jack ordered. "They'll have triggered an alarm." They ran through the corridors, no longer trying to be quiet. Outside, they could hear a siren starting to wail. "Teams 1 and 2 fall back to the rendezvous point," Jack commanded into his radio. They ran back up the hill as lights came on around the outpost. In the distance, they heard the sound of Xeraxian aircraft. At the rendezvous point, a mile away, everyone gathered in a small cave. "Did it work?" Kelly asked. Jack nodded, still catching his breath. The camouflage worked perfectly until they noticed something was wrong with their systems. The jammer must have alerted them. Back at the base, they reviewed what they had learned. Olivia studied the photos of the alien console. "These symbols are location markers," she explained. "Look, this is their map of our area, and these markings show their patrol routes, so we can predict where they'll be," Jack said. "And where they won't be," Paul added. Dr. Wells was examining data on her tablet. "The camouflage worked better than expected, but we need to improve the sound devices. They still detected some noise. Alan was already working on modifications. I think I can make them better. Maybe add different frequencies that will actually distract them." Over the next week, they improved their equipment. Alan created better sound disruptors. Dr. Wells refined the camouflage material to be even more effective. Olivia continued to decode the Xeraxian language from the photos. "I think I understand enough now to create false messages," she told Jack. "If we can access their communication system again, I might be able to send orders that sound like they're coming from their commanders." Jack looked at the growing stockpile of stealth equipment. "We need to test this on a larger scale. And we need to start spreading this to other resistance groups." Kelly had been keeping radio contact with other human survivors. "There's a group in Wyoming and another near Salt Lake City. If we can teach them how to make this equipment, we could coordinate." Jack finished the thought. "Hit multiple targets at once." They called their strategy Ghost Protocol. The plan was simple but effective. Use the Xeraxians' perceptual weaknesses against them. Move in their blind spots. Attack where they least expect it. Disappear before they can respond. Training began immediately. Jack and Paul taught everyone how to move silently, how to use the camouflage effectively, how to strike quickly and then vanish. 2 weeks later, they were ready for a bigger operation. Their target was a Xeraxian supply depot near what used to be Fort Collins. Intelligence from Kelly's scouts suggested it was lightly guarded but contained valuable equipment. The night before the operation, Jack found Kelly working on something in the workshop. "What's that?" he asked. She held up a small device. "Something I've been thinking about. The Xeraxians use sound to communicate when they're not using their radios. What if we could mimic those sounds? Like a Xeraxian voice?" Kelly nodded. "I've been recording them. There are patterns, like words. If we could play them back at the right time, we could cause confusion," Jack realized. "Make them think their own kind is giving orders." Exactly. The next day, as the sun set, 30 humans, prepared for the mission. They were divided into 5 teams, each with specific objectives. Jack would lead the main assault team. Paul would command the perimeter security team. Kelly would handle communications. Alan and Dr. Wells would stay back as support, while Olivia would attempt to access the Xeraxian communication network. As they prepared to move out, Jack addressed the group. "Remember, we're not fighting the way humans usually fight. We're not charging in with guns blazing. We're shadows. We're ghosts. The Xeraxians think they know how humans wage war. We're going to show them how wrong they are." They moved out under the cover of darkness, each person wearing the special camouflage. As they approached the depot, Jack activated his sound device. Around him, others did the same. 30 humans moved toward the alien facility, and not a single Xeraxian alarm sounded. They had become invisible to the invaders. The real fight for Earth was just beginning, and the aliens were about to learn a harsh lesson. Humans were masters of adaptation, and they had just adapted into the perfect predators. The supply depot operation was a complete success. Jack's team had moved like shadows through the Xeraxian facility, taking what they needed and vanishing before the aliens even knew they were there. Now, 3 months later, Ghost Protocol had spread across what remained of the United States. Jack looked at the map spread across the table in their expanded mountain base. Pins marked confirmed resistance cells from coast to coast. Lines showed supply routes and communication networks. Red X marks showed successful strikes against Xeraxian targets. "Report from the California group came in last night," Kelly said, pointing to the west coast. "They hit 3 outposts in one night using our methods. No casualties. The Texas team got those camouflage formulas we sent," Eric added. "They're already producing their own." Jack nodded. The resistance was growing stronger each week. What had started as desperate survival had become an organized rebellion, but he knew they needed to do more. "We need to hit something big," he said. "Something that will really hurt them." Alan entered the room looking excited. "I think I found it." He spread out some papers covered in diagrams. "I've been studying their communication patterns. Every Xeraxian facility sends regular updates to a central hub, and I think I found where it is." He pointed to a location in Arizona. "It's a massive processing facility. They're mining rare earth elements, the stuff they need for their technology. How big is it? Paul asked. Huge. But that's not all. Alan lowered his voice. Intercepted communications suggest High Commander. Vextar will be visiting the facility next week. The room went silent. Vextar, the Xeraxian leader who had betrayed them at first contact, was responsible for countless human deaths. If we could take him out, Eric began. Or better yet, capture him, Olivia suggested. Think of the intelligence we could get. Jack studied the satellite images Alan had gathered. The facility was massive, with multiple buildings and heavy security. It would be their biggest challenge yet. We'll need more people than we have here, Jack said. I can call in other groups, Kelly offered. The Wyoming team is only a day's travel away. Do it, Jack decided. But we'll need more than just people. We need a perfect plan. For the next week, they prepared. Teams arrived from nearby states bringing their own versions of the stealth equipment. Some had made improvements, which they shared. Kelly's sound-mimicking device had been perfected by a former audio engineer from Seattle. Dr. Wells had also made a breakthrough. I found a way to overload their sensory systems, she explained. A combination of certain light frequencies and sound patterns that causes temporary disorientation. Like a flashbang, but designed specifically for Xeraxian biology. The plan they developed was complex but careful. They called it Operation Phantom Strike. 5 teams would approach from different directions, using the improved stealth technology. Kelly would lead the communications team, using Xeraxian voice patterns to create confusion. Paul would command the main strike force. Jack, with a small team including Olivia, would go after Vexitar. The night before the operation, the base was full of activity. Over 60 resistance fighters prepared weapons and equipment. Jack found a quiet corner and sat alone, checking his gear one last time. Kelly found him there. You should get some rest, she said, sitting beside him. Too much on my mind, Jack replied. You're worried about tomorrow. Jack nodded. It's a big target. A lot could go wrong. A lot could go right, too, Kelly said. 6 months ago, I was teaching kids about science. Now I'm part of a resistance army that's actually winning. Because of you. Because of all of us, Jack corrected her. Every person here has contributed something valuable. But you gave us hope. You showed us we could fight back. Jack didn't answer. The weight of responsibility felt heavy on his shoulders. If tomorrow went wrong, a lot of good people could die. At dawn, they moved out. 7 vehicles, modified to run silently, carried the teams to positions surrounding the Xeraxian facility. By midday, everyone was in place. Jack watched the facility, through binoculars. Security was tight. Xeraxian guards patrolled the perimeter and flying craft circled overhead. Command to all teams, he said into his radio. Begin Phase 1. Kelly's team activated powerful jammers that would disrupt Xeraxian communications. At the same time, small drones planted by advanced scouts began broadcasting confusing sound, patterns at multiple locations around the facility. The effect was immediate. The Xeraxian patrols began moving erratically, clearly confused by the contradictory signals they were receiving. Some abandoned their posts to investigate the sounds. Phase 2, Jack ordered. Paul's team moved in from the north, using the improved camouflage that made them nearly invisible to Xeraxian eyes. At the same time, Eric led another team from the south. They planted explosive charges at key points around the perimeter. Jack's team waited for the signal. When it came, 3 short clicks on the radio. They moved forward. Their target was a landing pad where Vextar's ship had been spotted. They reached the outer fence without being detected. The sound disruptors were working perfectly, creating a bubble of confusing noise that masked their movements. The Xeraxians nearby seemed disoriented, their skin flashing rapid patterns of yellow and red. Using wire cutters, they made an opening in the fence and slipped through. Ahead was an open area, about 50 yards of exposed ground before they reached the main building. Now or never, Jack whispered. They ran across the open space, hunched low. No alarm sounded. The Xeraxians were too busy dealing with the confusion created by Kelly's team. Inside the main building, they moved quickly through the corridors. Olivia had memorized the layout from intercepted data. She led them toward where Vextar was supposed to be. They turned a corner and came face to face with 4 Zyraxian guards. Before the aliens could react, Jack's team fired their stun weapons. 3 dropped immediately. The 4th managed to hit an alarm before Paul took it down. Sirens wailed throughout the facility. "Move," Jack ordered. "We don't have much time." They ran down the corridor, no longer trying to be stealthy. Behind them, they could hear the sound of many Zyraxian feet. They burst into a large room that looked like a control center, and there, standing by a large display, was High Commander Vextar. His skin was deep purple with gold patterns, exactly as Jack remembered from first contact day. Vextar turned, his compound eyes widening at the sight of humans in his command center. "Impossible," the alien said through a translation device. "Humans cannot be here." "Surprise," Jack said, raising his weapon. But before he could fire, an explosion rocked the building. The charges set by Eric's team had detonated. In the confusion, Vextar slipped through a side door. Jack moved to follow, but more Zyraxian guards entered the room. A firefight broke out. One of Jack's team went down, then another. "Fall back," Jack ordered. "Complete the mission objective." While they had failed to capture Vextar, Olivia had reached the main console. She plugged in a device Alan had created, a virus that would infect the Zyraxian communication network. As they retreated, fighting their way back through the facility, Jack took a hit to his side. The pain was intense, but he kept moving. Outside, chaos reigned. The explosions had damaged the facility's power systems. Zyraxian craft were circling in confusion. Paul's team was engaged in a firefight near the main gate. "All teams, fall back. To extraction points," Jack said into his radio, his voice strained from pain. As they retreated into the desert, Jack looked back at the facility. Smoke rose from multiple buildings. The mission hadn't gone exactly as planned, but they had struck a serious blow. Jack stumbled, the pain in his side becoming overwhelming. Paul caught him before he fell. "Stay with us, Commander," Paul said. "We're not done fighting yet." As darkness closed in around Jack, his last thought was of Earth, still occupied, but now fighting back in ways the Zyraxians had never expected. Jack woke up in pain. The bright light hurt his eyes. He tried to sit up, but someone gently pushed him back down. "Easy there," Kelly said. "You lost a lot of blood." Slowly, Jack's vision cleared. He was in the medical section of their mountain base. Dr. Wells stood nearby, checking something on a tablet. "How long was I out?" Jack asked, his voice rough. 4 days, Kelly answered. "The Zyraxian weapon did some damage, but you'll live." "The mission?" "We got out. Lost 3 people." Kelly's face was tired but determined. "But we hurt them bad, Jack. Really bad." Dr. Wells came over. "Alan's virus worked better than expected. It spread through their entire communication network. They've been scrambling ever since, sending confused orders and contradicting commands." Jack nodded, wincing at the pain in his side. "And Vextar?" "Got away," Kelly said. "But we have something else. Show him." Dr. Wells handed Jack a tablet. On it was a video feed showing a Zyraxian strapped to a chair. The alien's skin was flashing rapidly between colors. "We captured one of their officers during the escape," Kelly explained. "Olivia has been questioning him." Jack watched as the alien spoke, its words translated by a device. "The High Command is in disarray. Earth operations not proceeding as planned. Resistance tactics unexpected. Stealth abilities not in our intelligence reports. They're afraid of us," Jack realized. "Not just afraid," a voice said from the doorway. Olivia entered the room. "They're completely baffled. They don't understand how we're fighting them. Their entire strategy was based on overwhelming force and superior technology. They never considered we would adapt so quickly." Over the next 2 weeks, Jack recovered slowly. The news from around the country was encouraging. Resistance cells were growing in size and effectiveness. The Ghost Protocol had spread even to other continents. Reports came in of successful operations in Europe, Asia, and South America. But then came troubling news. Alan intercepted a Zyraxian transmission that made everyone worried. Vextar is getting desperate, Alan told the leadership team. He's ordered the planetary bombardment fleet to move into position. If we don't surrender within 3 days, they'll start targeting major population centers from orbit. Can they do that? Eric asked. They have the firepower, Paul confirmed. Our satellites spotted at least 20 large ships moving into low Earth orbit. Jack looked at the worried faces around him. They had been winning on the ground, but they had no way to fight the Zyraxians in space. There has to be a way, he said. If we could get to their command ship. That's impossible, Paul said. Even with our stealth tech, how would we get up there? Jack was quiet for a moment, then he said, the prison camp near what used to be Colorado Springs. The one where they're keeping captured pilots, could we get them out? Kelly understood immediately. And then capture one of their shuttles. Exactly. If their ground forces are as disorganized as we think, there might be a window of opportunity. The plan came together quickly. They would hit the prison camp with 3 teams. The primary objective was to free the pilots. The secondary objective was to capture an intact shuttle. The camp raid went more smoothly than expected. The Zyraxian guards were confused and slow to respond thanks to the continuing effects of Alan's virus. They freed 38 human prisoners, including 6 experienced pilots. Better yet, they captured 2 Zyraxian shuttles completely intact. The pilots spent a day learning the controls while the rest of the team prepared for what Jack called the impossible mission. We'll only get one shot at this, Jack told the volunteers. Only 20 people would go on the space mission, all they could fit on the 2 shuttles. If we fail, Earth is doomed. But if we succeed, we can end this war. Olivia had extracted crucial information from their Zyraxian prisoner about the command ship's layout and security systems. Dr. Wells had improved their stealth equipment for space conditions. Alan had prepared special devices that would disrupt the ship's internal systems. The night before the mission, Jack couldn't sleep. He went outside and looked up at the stars. Somewhere up there was Vextar, preparing to destroy what was left of human civilization. Can't sleep either. Kelly joined him, looking up at the same stars. Wondering if we can really pull this off, Jack admitted. We've done the impossible before, Kelly reminded him. They weren't ready for us on the ground. They won't be ready for us in space either. The next morning, the 20 volunteers boarded the 2 shuttles. Jack led the first team, which would go after Vextar. Kelly led the second team, which would disable the ship's weapon systems. The captured Zyraxian pilots had shown them how to use the shuttle's identification codes. As they approached the massive command ship, they transmitted the codes and were granted permission to dock. Remember, Jack told his team as they prepared to board the ship, we're ghosts. We move silently, we strike precisely, and then we disappear. They moved through the ship using all the stealth techniques they had perfected on Earth. The Zyraxians never saw them coming. Using Dr. Wells's special disruptors, they temporarily blinded security systems. Using Kelly's sound devices, they confused the alien's sensitive hearing. Jack's team reached the command center first. They placed Alan's devices on the doors and waited. When the devices activated, the doors opened and they rushed in. The command center was huge, with dozens of Zyraxians at different stations. And in the center stood High Commander Vextar. This time, there would be no escape. Before the aliens could react, Jack's team had control of the room. The humans removed their stealth coverings, becoming visible to the shocked aliens. How? Vextar asked, his skin flashing dark red with black patterns. How did you get aboard my ship? The same way we've been defeating you on the ground, Jackie said. By being the one thing you never expected, adaptable. At that moment, Kelly's voice came over their radios. Weapon system secured, we have control. Jack looked at Vextar. Call off the bombardment, end this war. And if I refuse? The alien commander asked. Then we use your own weapons against your fleet, Jack said simply. We've learned how to operate your technology. We've already transmitted the command ship's security codes to every resistance cell on Earth. Even if you kill us, humans everywhere now know how to fight you, how to beat you. Vextar was silent for a long moment. Then he gave an order in the Xeraxian language. He's standing down the fleet, Olivia translated. In the days that followed, a fragile peace began. The Xeraxians, having drastically underestimated human adaptability, agreed to negotiations. They hadn't expected a less technologically advanced species to find and exploit their weaknesses so effectively. 1 month later, Jack stood beside Kelly as they watched Xeraxian ships departing Earth orbit. Not all were leaving. Some would remain as part of the newly formed Joint Council, where humans and Xeraxians would work together to repair the damage done by the war. Hard to believe it's over, Kelly said. Not over, Jack replied. Just changing. They came as invaders, but they're staying as partners. Because we showed them something they didn't expect. Jack nodded. They studied our weapons, our technology, our conventional tactics. But they never understood what makes humans truly dangerous. Which is, we adapt, we overcome. And when everything is on the line, we become whatever we need to be to survive. Jack looked up at the departing ships, even ghosts.